Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Morris Tech Meetup virtual event. It should be a great event focused on COVID technology, and thank you all very much for joining. To start out, I'll just show a few housekeeping slides, and then we'll get started with the formal agenda. So, again, this is the Morris Tech Meetup. It's actually our third virtual event, which is fantastic, and it's wonderful to have you all here. Okay, so here's your meetup organizers, and we're very pleased with all the volunteering they do. This whole thing is pro bono. So Mark Baskin, who does a lot of the organizing for some of these events, and he has his own company called DigiKist. There's also Nancy Rago, who works for Korn Hines, and she's doing a fantastic job with our social media and marketing outreach, which is what she does there. That's me. I'm John, and I work for a company called iEnterprises, and Mark Annette, who has invented pretty much everything, or even things that haven't been invented yet. I don't know how that works, but anyway, thank you. Just some resources I'll review here. So our event site is meetup.com/Morris Meetup. And there's our social media links as well on the screen. Typically, obviously, this event happens at Fairleigh Dickinson University. And we're also involved with New Jersey Tech Weekly, and Esther is typically writing all about us, so that's fantastic. There's a link to the New Jersey Technology Council, and Tech Launch is also one of our very good friends. So first of all, thanks to our sponsors, and most particularly the Morris County Economic Development Corporation. And I'd like to thank them for everything they do. But some of our other community partners, I mentioned Fairleigh Dickinson, and we wish that this event was actually happening at Fairleigh Dickinson right now, but it's not, due to the very topic we're discussing. So we'll hopefully be back there soon. New Jersey Tech Weekly's up there. Tech Launch, that's my company, iEnterprises. The Station, which is a co-working space in Chatham, and so on. So speaking of the Morris County Economic Development Corporation, we have someone from the Morris County Chamber and the Morris County Economic Development Corporation, and his name is Mike Stellanis, and Mike will say a few words on behalf of Megan in his best imitation of Megan's voice, because her slide was up, not Mike. So Mike, if you could say a little something, that would be great.
Great, thank you, John, and thank you for putting this together. We are really happy to be a sponsor. I'm Mike Stanzilis from the Chamber of Commerce, Morris County, which also has the Economic Development Corporation as part of that. And these types of meetings are so important to us and to the business community. And you know what's happening now, the future, because this pandemic was thrust into fast forward, and it's technology that's still keeping us connected with our members at the Economic Development Corporation and the Chamber of Commerce and you. So I just want to thank you, John, and we really appreciate what you guys are doing here. And we're so happy to be a sponsor. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. And we really appreciate what you're done. You're actually making this possible, so thank you. All right, so moving right along, where we'd like to introduce our pitch for the day, and we do just have one pitch from a great company that is right on topic with COVID tech. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ryan Hurd, who is the smart guy, and he's author of Join the Smart Home Revolution and founder of Caregiver Smart Solutions. So Ryan, welcome to the Morris Tech Meetup, and please take it away. Tell us all about your idea and your company and where you're at.
Sure. Hey, John, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's a wonderful afternoon, even if it is a little hot. I'm going to share the screen right now. Let's see if you can see it. All right, do you see? Let's Start this up. Okay, can you hear me?
Looks good. I see your screen and I can hear you just fine, Ryan. Why don't you go ahead and take it away? I can't wait.
All right, here we go. Obviously, my name is Ryan Hurd. I'm known as a smart guy. I've been in the technology field for actually 30 years. That's a long time. I am the founder of Caregiver Smart Solutions, and let me tell you about it. So the problem prior of COVID is there's 55 million Americans that are 65 and older. 87% want to stay in their home and community. That's where their family is. That's where their friends are. That's where the community is. And caregivers, whether it's you or me or a professional caregiver, you know, they're concerned about our loved ones living alone. Cameras are intrusive. Nobody wants a camera in their home. Nobody even wants to wear these bracelets. And we're always waiting for something to happen. Everything in the field is reactive, and people want a proactive solution. And of course, COVID has shown us and reinforced that our aging loved ones are really susceptible to a lot of things. So what do we do about it? There's got to be a solution. What does that solution have to look like, especially nowadays? Well, it's got to be app-based. We live in an app-based society. It needs to notify you if their habits have changed. So in other words, if your loved one gets up twice a night, and that's her habit, fine. But if all of a sudden she gets up 3, 4, 5 times a night for 3 nights in a row, that's probably something you want to know about, and you want to have that conversation. Because we all know when we ask mom, how is she doing? What is she saying? I'm fine. The solution also has to be proactive. I want to know about things before they become major. So if our loved one isn't drinking enough, I need to know that, because dehydration is a precursor to a fall. Falls are bad. They end up in the emergency room, and emergency room costs are skyrocketing. We also want to allow your loved one to retain their independence. I mean, think about it. When you got your first car, you got that taste of independence. We can't expect our 96-year-old grandmother to give that up, because I'm never going to give it up. So why should she? And of course, no creepy cameras. So introducing Caregiver Smart Solutions. Small, non-invasive sensors placed discreetly around the home. These sensors are tracking the habits of your loved one, because a habit is an indicator of your health. And it's providing you, the caregiver, with the information needed to make those decisions, to know that everything is normal, or if something's amiss, you're going to know. Now, we can go into all the minutiae, but basically the way that it works, it is patent pending. This sensor is talked to the hub then goes to our cloud. We add machine learning and AI and all the secret sauce up there, and all that information comes into a very easy, readable app, because it's all about clear, concise information. And this is our app. So with a quick look at the app, you're going to know exactly how your loved one's doing. Are they moving around? You know, what is the temperature inside of the house? What is the temperature outside of the house? Have they taken a shower? Have they opened up the fridge? Are they using the bathroom? There's so many different fundamentals that we are looking at. And then you can dive deeper. On average, how many times do they open up the medicine cabinet? If you know, for example, what got me into this was my father. He had cancer, and I wanted to put something in. Now, I'm the smart guy. I do a lot of technology, and I found out that there's nothing out there. Well, once I designed the system and I put it in my father's house, I realized that with cancer, with his form of cancer, he actually had to take 3 different medicines, 1 in the morning, 1 at night, and those could be any time between 8 and 10 a.m. and 6 and 10 p.m. But there was 1 at 1 o'clock that I never knew about until we put in this system. And what I realized is that was for his, I forget the word that they call it, but the inability for his legs, so he couldn't feel his feet. And it had to be taken at 1 o'clock every single day. It was very important. He was very consistent with that one. I would have never have known. And again, that facilitates that conversation. And now I can put a reminder. So if he doesn't take it, boom, I'll have that information on my app. Now, moving forward, what's the benefit? We're not requiring your loved one to wear anything. Have you ever tried to have grandma wear something or change their habits? Never going to happen. We're focusing on the caregiver, you, by giving you more peace of mind. We know that your aging loved ones, especially now, have compromised immune systems, they have respiratory issues and more. And we're enabling your loved one to retain their independence for as long as possible. Now, whether that's in a single family home, a condo, an apartment, or even an assisted living facility, we're still allowing them to retain their independence because we're proactive. We're answering and asking those questions before they become a real issue. Now, we do have 3 different products. We have the basic monitoring kit, deluxe monitoring kit, and deluxe plus. As you can see, price points are very inexpensive, starting at $129 plus $29 a month. You get a value and tremendous value of information, so you can do what you got to do. It's giving you more peace of mind. Now, moving on, we had an incredible CES. This is where we launched it. From CES, we've gotten amazing opportunities with stars like Target, Costco, CVS, United Health, and so much more. So we are looking on the payer side, we're looking on the retail side, and we're in the midst of a bunch of stuff right now. Our first launch, we sold out within hours. We're looking for our next round currently as we speak. Very exciting. Now, when we talk about go-to-market strategy, we're actually focusing on our middle kit because we feel that this gives you the most value from a price point, from a user experience, as well as our partnership with Costco, the ability to palletize it and drop it in 546 Costcos around the nation. So wait and see. This will be at your local Costco in a very short time period. Now, when we talk about size of market, we all know that the U.S. has an aging population, but what exactly does that mean? Well, if you were to look it up from a data standpoint, 55 and older, more than half of them own half of the homes in the U.S. So out of 127 million homes, there's 55 million homes. Well, when you look at the smallest market, or the people that are ready today, the people that need this product right here, right now, we're only focusing on 7 states, and that still is 3.6 million homes. Basically, what I'm saying is the issue is massive, and that was prior of COVID. So now you look at us compared to the competition. Yep, there's competition just like anything else, from alarm.com to Great Call, Freya, Safe and Home, GrandPat. The difference that we have, the fundamental difference is obviously our value, but we're on the proactive side, and we're also leveraging AI. Where everybody else in this industry, it really seems like the technology stopped in 1990, and it's amazing. Now, I can't do this alone. Obviously, I've been in the industry for 30 years, but we have amassed the heavy hitters of the industry. From Vin Bruno, his 30 years of manufacturing and tech. He used to head up, he was a CEO of CEDIA industry organization, as well as Crestron, to David Cerroti, to Pam Golden, to David Ty. I mean, we have it covered. This is the dream team for this type of product. Now, why now? As I stated, there's 55 million Americans that are 65 and older, and that's growing by 10,000 people a day. That's amazing in its own right. And we know that 87% of them want to stay home, just like you or I. I never want to go into an assisted living or a nursing home. I love my independence. And caregivers want some kind of proactive. They're tired of the I fall and I can't get up. That's been great. But what we learned also is our aging loved ones believe that's the button of death. It's like I'm hanging this thing in front of them saying, listen, Dad, if you're going to have an issue, I need you to press the button. Well, they look at that a different way than we do. We need some kind of tiny, non-invasive solution that is proactive so we can get ahead of things. Now, we did learn a few things from COVID. We're more concerned than ever for our aging loved ones, especially now. I mean, I still can't even go and see my grandmother. I have to stay 6 feet out in front of her condo and talk to her through the door. You know, that's isolating. That's isolating for our aging loved ones. We know that our aging loved ones are the most susceptible to diseases. We know that assisting living communities and nursing homes may not be the best options. We've seen a lot of issues with that. So there's probably going to be more push to stay in the home. And we're seeing that from the payer system, from the in-home providers and more. And then, of course, because a lot of people are out of work, we have access to higher quality talent, which definitely helps us. There's a lot of people out there that care about our aging loved ones and care about our mission. So we're really asking you to help us change the world, because that is exactly what we are doing. And again, the name is Caregiver Smart Solutions. We're providing insights for the proactive care of your loved one who is aging in place. There we go. Hopefully I was on my 5-minute mark. I didn't want to take up too much time.
That was fantastic, Ryan. Thanks so much for doing that. We really appreciate it. So we do have a few questions from the peanut gallery, and I should have mentioned it before, but in YouTube you can put questions and they come through to us. So if you have questions for Ryan, you better put them in right now. And and if you have questions for Pavita later, which there goes my New York accent, which starts in just a bit, please put them in. So So someone's asking, where is the manufacturing being done? And I'll elaborate on that and ask, like, how far along are you with manufacturing? Like, how many units have you made and contracted to make, let's say
Right.
that.
So obviously it's designed in the US. It's manufactured in Shenzhen, China. Our first group got sold out. We're looking for a next run of 1,000 units. That should be hitting the shores in about 30 to 45 days. It's in production as we speak.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great. Yeah, and as you know, like I had some similar ideas, and I was working on a project that was related to this, right? But
Yeah.
and you've gotten a lot further along, so I congratulate you there. That's really
Thank you.
fantastic. I think I'm going to stick with CRM, but anyway, how many units have you actually sold? Is it just past prototype, or where are you at in that regard?
So our past prototype, we sold a bunch of units. We also had some prior, want to call it beta tests with like United Way, Veterans Administration, things like that. We are looking, I do have an ask, just in case anybody knows anyone. We're looking to get into Erickson. There is a place actually by me in Pompton Plains. We're looking to partner up with a large assisted living facility, because what we did learn from COVID is it's one thing that you buy into an assisted living facility, and generally the living arrangements are a little smaller because you never think that you're going to have to stay in your apartment 24 hours a day because they have so many assets. Well, what we learned from COVID is how do you keep an eye on, let's say, 1,500 residents. So I think we can add a ton of value there. I would love it if anybody knows or anybody can put us in contact or help us out in the assisted living facilities.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. My mom's in assisted living right now, and
Okay.
you know, the reason why I had thought about doing something in this space was really for my mom, and I did. I wired up her house way back when, but I begged them to put like monitoring in her room, and they just wouldn't do it. You know, they said there was a contract. And it said there was no monitoring devices. I should have asked for forgiveness instead of permission.
Yeah, exactly.
In retrospect, right? They probably wouldn't have kicked us out. We're paying it like costs more than the Ritz. So anyway, but they did eventually cave, and they put a door alarm on her door, and got her to stay in her room, and she's doing just great. And as you probably know, they didn't start out doing a good job, but I think they're doing a really good job with the virus now in those assisted living facilities. So, but what you're doing is fantastic because it'll keep people out of them for longer, and you know, it's just
and enable everybody to know how your loved one is doing behind the door, whether they're in a condo, in an assisted living facility, whether they're in a single family home. Again, it's being proactive.
Okay, one more question, and then we'll move on if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I guess people are asking about like term sheet and valuation and all that, but I'll maybe phrase it like this: where are you at in terms of investing, and where are you looking to go?
We're right in the middle of due diligence with a $5 million Series A. So that's where we're currently in right now. We're hoping to close that round. Well, we were hoping to be closing that round already. We were on fire coming out of CES. It was absolutely amazing. COVID obviously slowed things down with everything. But we're hoping to close that in the next 60 days. Regardless, we're still moving forward. We still have product in production, and we're still selling.
That sounds awesome. All right. Thanks so much, Ryan. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
And, you know, as I mentioned, most importantly, you're really doing something good for the world by doing this.
I appreciate it. Thank you. All
right. Have a great day. So let's get moving here. Let me get to my presentation. All right, so it's my sincere pleasure to introduce Pavita Howe. And Pavita is actually definitely most famous for being one of the co-founding members of the Morris Tech Meetup. So she's been around the block with us, and we thank her for founding this great group and now coming back after much success to speak here. She's actually Director of Entrepreneurship Partnerships at Rutgers, and it's called the Corporate Engagement Center, or CEC. That's her primary role. She previously served as Director of Tech Advance which is a piece of a program inside of Rutgers to actually commercialize technology built under the leadership of that program. And most recently, Pavita took on a special assignment as Rutgers because she does a little bit of everything, I think, as part of the RUCDR team, which works on the new COVID saliva test. So Pavita, thank you, first of all, for founding this fantastic group and for coming back and doing this speech and telling us all about what you're doing at Rutgers. So do you have anything to say before I ask a few questions?
Well, just thank you again for having me. It's great to be back at Morris Tech and to see old friends. And a lot of people reached out to me as part of the announcements for this event. So thanks to all. It was really nice to hear from you, and I'm happy to be here. Okay,
so I'll try not to do too many stupid jokes with during the interview, if that's okay. But there's a lot. Anyway, again, before we get started with the Q&A, if you have a question for Pavita, please put it in the chat section on YouTube, and we'll be happy to address it if we have the time, and we hopefully will. So first and foremost, your main role is actually working for the Rutgers Corporate Engagement Center, or the CEC. So what's that about? What do you do there?
So the Corporate Engagement Center is meant to be the obvious front door for companies that want to engage with Rutgers. So we help to facilitate partnerships based on the interest of industry partners. And that can include things like sponsored research, access to talent, workforce development, corporate giving, and any other way that people want to engage with us. We also keep track of events and connections happening on campus with industry so that we can coordinate those efforts. So my role was a newly created role in entrepreneurship to manage relationships with the entrepreneurial community around Rutgers. And the goal is to become the place to go to get information about Rutgers entrepreneurial activities and to connect with people in programs that are relevant and to access resources and make valuable connections around that community. And in particular, our team reports into both the Office of Research as well as the Rutgers University Foundation. So we work closely with research as well as with Rutgers alumni. And for those who aren't aware, there are more than 500,000 living alumni for Rutgers. And we've found that many of them are actually entrepreneurs and investors and very interested in this community.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. And how about, what is one of the biggest success stories of the CEC? Like what was the blockbuster that came out of there?
Well, so CEC is still fairly new, so we are building external relationships, and there will be some fairly large alliances with big local companies that we'll be announcing in the near future. However, and we're also coordinating internally to understand all the partnerships that are happening throughout the university. But in terms of entrepreneurship, our Office of Research Commercialization as well as New Ventures have been very successful in launching some companies, licensing many important technologies. And since entrepreneurship partnerships, we work particularly with alumni as well. There are several Rutgers alumni who have gone on to start companies that have been very successful and have had big news even recently. So we will be launching a new website and social media channels next month, and we'll be providing a lot of that information, really engaging with the community and trying to bring more visibility to some of those successes. So, you know, I can send that information when it's launched and people can follow along to hear more about the successes.
That's great. And could any entrepreneur get involved, or do they have to have some connection with Rutgers or be a Rutgers alumni, or how does that work?
Well, we're always looking to engage with people, and the way we engage depends on people's interests. So some people want to be involved with students, some people want to be involved with research and faculty, entrepreneurs, whether they want to be speakers or mentors, or they want to be involved with actual startups or teams, we can engage with them. We do also, for Rutgers entrepreneurs and recent alumni or people in the community, provide some resources to make connections, help connect to funding and so on, just to help those people get off the ground and grow their startups.
All right, that's fantastic. So they put you in another role as well. So before we talk about that, like, how many hats do you have, and will you come back and help us run the Morris Tech Meetup and add that to your list of roles? You're not supposed to answer that, actually. So, but do you have any other hats at Rutgers other than you have the CEC, and now you've been put on super secret special assignment at the Rutgers RUCDR, right?
Right.
And any other roles, and what are they, if there are any?
Well, our roles really, because we're in corporate engagement, our role is relationship management and helping to bring groups within the university together, as well to connect with people outside the university. So many things can fall into that bucket,
All right.
and this was one of those assignments.
Okay, so then I take it your answer to come back to the meetup is no, based on that too. So whatever. Anyway, so tell us a little bit about the RUCDR. How did you get pulled into that? Was it like a last minute emergency, and what's it about?
Right. So I often say that I'm constantly doing things that I never expected to do, and this was definitely one of those. The RUCDR is the largest cell and DNA repository at an academic institution in the world, and they provide biomaterials and biobanking with the mission of helping to understand the causes of genetic diseases, and also to help develop diagnostics, treatments, and cures for those diseases. And so the way this came about was on April 11th, RUCDR received an emergency use authorization, which is called the EUA, from the FDA to be able to run these saliva tests for COVID-19. And this was an alternate method instead of using nasopharyngeal or other types of swabs. And a few weeks later, they also received authorization to do in-home or at-home testing. So this happened in the middle of April. By the end of April, Rutgers and RUCDR were being bombarded with inquiries from people who were asking for help with testing. And so our Senior Vice President of Research, David Kimball, came to the Corporate Engagement Center, since we do deal with external entities, to see if we could help with handling some of these inquiries. So I volunteered based on the information they provided, and Dr. Brooks, who was the COO of RUCDR and will now be the CEO of this new company, said, okay, so first thing you need to do is spend a week in the lab, train on the process, and document everything that they're doing. And so that was a bit of a surprise. I haven't been in a lab in a long time to actually work, but that's how we got started. And since that time, we also were putting together a know-how package to be able to document how another lab could set up the same process. And so I spent the week in the lab, and then also have worked with the team and been on several calls with Dr. Brooks and others to discuss testing for other organizations and to figure out how to best deploy testing for them.
Very cool. So you spent a whole week in the lab, and did you trip over anything or break anything, or was it all good?
No, but it's you go in, you're in PPE. They take you to the first place where they receive samples and decontaminate them, and then run their sample processing. And it was very interesting, and we definitely an interesting experience.
Okay. Someone's asking, and we'll take questions at the end, but I'm not a fan of acronyms myself, but what does the RUCDR stand for before we get a little deeper?
So that's Rutgers University Cell and DNA Repository.
Wow, okay.
Good thing
we'll stick with RUCDR. How's that? We'll save a lot of time. Okay, so this is a saliva test, right? So maybe you could tell us just a little bit about what the benefits of the COVID-19 saliva test that was built by the RUCDR.
Right. So it's an easier and more robust collection method. Most people are getting the swab tests, and it's definitely less invasive than the swab tests, the nasopharyngeal swabs and others. And it also doesn't require a healthcare worker to, insert a swab. So it's less risky to the healthcare workers, and also means that they need less PPE because they're not using that equipment. And because they were approved for at-home testing, it's also allowing for at-home testing, which is a good option for people who are sick or at risk, or if you're testing people before they come back to work or school, so they're able to do that. So, and I actually, I thought it might be helpful to have a prop.
Oh, wow.
So I went to the lab and picked up a test. And so when you get the test, this is what you get. Now if they send it to you at home, it'll come in other packaging and with the courier packaging as well. But when you get this biohazard bag, and it comes with the kit and a wipe. And the kit is barcoded. And I did see there were some questions about privacy. So these samples all get de-identified. There's no identifying information by the time it arrives at the lab. And actually all samples are disposed of within a few days. So they don't keep the information. So you get this package, you open it up, and it has this saliva tube, and it's got a little funnel on top. So you spit into the tube, and you have to spit up to this line.
You don't have to do that, okay?
Yeah, wasn't planning to. So you spit up to the line, and once you're done, you can remove this cap, and there's another cap in the package, and this has a blue liquid in it. And the blue liquid actually, it contains a preservative, which will deactivate the virus in the sample. So once you're done, you've got this. I'll just hold it so people can see. So you've got this sample, and you shake it. And once you close the cap properly and shake it, this blue liquid comes down into the saliva sample, and it deactivates the virus. So once you're done, you use the wipes, clean it off, place it in the bag, and then you send it in to the lab. And typically, the lab should have results within 36 to 48 hours. The only time there's a delay is if there's any kind of indeterminate results, and they may have to run another sample from the same test, or run the process on more of the same sample. So.
Okay, well, that was great. Thanks for the props. That was fantastic. So by the way, like I was talking about my mom earlier, and she's in assisted living, and they've mandated, I believe it's biweekly testing in assisted living, which is fantastic. But I know they chase them around, trying to stick that swab. I don't know if you've had it, but I know I haven't. Luckily, even my allergies aren't acting up these days, so I haven't had to. But I know people who have, and they say that it's really uncomfortable. And you could imagine, like in assisted living, that people aren't always cooperative. And anyway, that sounds great. So
right.
maybe you can send a few more of those over there. I'll give you the address after this. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, so I actually did take that test, and it did seem a lot more pleasant than the swabs. And obviously, again, nobody has to administer it, but yes, we've heard that that's definitely one of the benefits.
Okay. All right, I have some more questions. There's a bunch of great questions coming in too, which is fantastic. So keep on going out there, everyone. So one thing was, like, when this whole thing hit, like, I found it frustrating not being able to help, right? Like, and I did start going out and buying groceries for seniors. That's my one little thing. But what you're doing is really something big. So, like, how does that feel? Does it make you feel good? Like, or does it only feel good after, like, everyone's been tested? Where are you at with that?
Well, certainly I had the same feeling in March when everything shut down. We're all thinking, oh, what now? And, this is affecting so many people's businesses and livelihoods. And then the next thing is, how can you help? And So when our leadership came and asked if we would be willing to help out, I thought, it's a great way to be involved and also to see what's going on with COVID-19 and with the testing and so on. So honestly, it was amazing. I was definitely a little nervous about going into the lab and working, putting on PPE, working next to the team. But the fact is that this team is amazing. They were so dedicated and hardworking. When we all shut down, so many of us get to work from home, and for them, they were still there every day, and they were working long hours. The demands for testing are coming in. They haven't stopped, and those people were being tested regularly, so they had some reassurance, but they also have the same issues as everybody else, from how to get their groceries to how to deal with childcare and how to work the crazy hours that they're working. And I've been on several calls with Dr. Brooks. He starts his day at 4:30 in the morning on calls, and he's on calls till nighttime. It's been an unbelievable routine. He probably hasn't slept for more than a few hours since March. And the team too, they're there at all hours. They were so responsive and so helpful. So it feels great to be able to help as far as testing, until everybody is social distancing and wearing masks and being cautious, we're probably still going to be testing a lot of people for a long time. And of course, until there's vaccines and treatments, we're not out of the woods. Yeah,
you got to get that thing on Amazon. That would be great. Anyway, I know that's probably not happening tomorrow. But actually, I'm going to weave in a few questions here, if you don't mind. Are they, like, when they're testing the saliva, are they looking for like antibodies? What are they looking for? And what does that blue stuff do to deactivate it? Do you know, or is that too crazy?
So I'll give you the high level version. So the test is a reverse transcriptase qPCR test, and they're looking for viral genes. So in the saliva sample, they spin it down, and they're looking for those genes that match the virus. And the blue liquid is really just preservative to deactivate that virus, but the genes are still there. It just breaks it down.
And is the blue stuff so you can't catch it again, or just to preserve it, or both?
It's actually, part of it is a safety thing. You're not transporting contagious virus when you're delivering the test to the lab. So when you send swabs, they actually have to have a viral transport media and be couriered over to the lab. And the saliva test, you're actually deactivating it. And the wipe that they provide is to wipe just the outside of the container in case some spit gets on it. And that's the main thing they're cleaning off. When the samples arrive at the lab, they have those tubes and they put them in a rack, and someone sits under a hood in a BSL 2+ lab and decontaminates every single tube before they start processing the samples. Wow,
that sounds like it could really save some time and money, right? Like not having to deal with the biohazard, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, very cool. Okay, so let's get into, like, there was like a spin out or an investment by Infinite Biologics into this technology, and or is you maybe you can explain it. What happened? There was there's some sort of commercialization project going on, and there was some big money put into it. So can you explain that and what it was about?
Yeah, so in the middle of June, Rutgers announced an asset purchase agreement where Rutgers was receiving $44 million, and they were going to spin out a new company. So the RUCDR Infinite Biologics Lab is now going to be Infinity Biologics, IBX, and they are a next-gen lab, that central lab that will be providing technology solutions and precision medicine. And they will be a standalone company. The major lead investor on the deal was Viking Global Investors. And Dr. Brooks will actually be the CEO of the company when the deal closes. This allows the lab to expand on the work they're doing and to be able to grow, which was not really possible as in the environment of being part of a state university. But they did commit to continuing to run tests for the state of New Jersey, up to 30,000 tests a day for the state of New Jersey, 10,000 tests a day for Rutgers. and they will still be affiliated with Rutgers, so Rutgers can still take advantage of some of the services that they've had in the past from Infinite Biologics.
So like, if you know, like, so you mentioned 30,000 for the state and 10,000 for Rutgers. What's the like current output, and what do you think, like, how many fold will the output increase after, assuming this deal closes?
So I do know from talking to other organizations that we realize, obviously Infinity Biologics can't be testing the entire country.
Yes.
However, they are, I checked on this just the other day, and the latest numbers are that they're testing between 10,000 to 50,000 samples a day or processing them, and that they have, their capacity is now nearing 80,000 a day.
Wow, okay. That's good. By the way, that was, I'm not just purposely going off script. That was a question that came from the audience. I'm trying to keep Pavita on her toes here. And then, that deal, what was the deal worth?
So it was 44 million, which is revenue coming into Rutgers, and then there are multiple investors on the deal. That's great.
And then there's more revenue in the future, I would hope. Like, is there like a licensing agreement in that?
Right. So there is some downstream revenue that comes into Rutgers as a result of the testing. And then in addition, as I mentioned, Rutgers has used RUCDR for several services. They can continue to do that because of their affiliation. And of course, they'll be doing COVID testing.
And that's going to lower college tuition dramatically, right, for everyone. I don't expect you to answer that. I could use help with that right now, but not necessarily at Rutgers. Anyway, although I wish my kids went there. It's a fantastic school. Anyway, so we kind of covered what the status is. Like, you guys are in production, right? And you're pushing this out as fast as you can. Is that where you're at?
Yes, so we've worked with many organizations, and so the state of New Jersey is using saliva testing in some of their counties for Department of Corrections, New Jersey Transit. We're working with Robert Wood Johnson, the healthcare system, as well as several universities to help them bring their staff and employees or students to work. We've talked to other states with their health departments, major sports organizations, and they're actually using saliva testing for PGA and some of the Major League Baseball organizations.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it's been very broadly used. And as I mentioned, the capacity right now could be up to 80,000 tests per day running just at the location here in Piscataway.
Okay, so if you could put like a baseball in that kit when you send it to the MLB and get the signatures back for me, that would be great. So there's loads of stuff coming in. It's almost too much, so which is a good thing. So thanks everyone for all the questions. So, like, on a higher scale, how much does Rutgers like actually spend on research like this, or just give us some order of magnitude to what how many projects like this are going on and so on?
Well, great order of magnitude. The total research budget for Rutgers last year was over $700 million, wow, which is actually more than all the research institutions in New Jersey combined. So it's big. And we're also in the top half of the Big Ten universities. So Rutgers is part of Big Ten and in the top half for research budgets. And so, it includes everything. We are definitely heavy in life science, but there are many other areas, in tech, food innovation, clean tech, environment, agriculture, biomedical engineering, and other areas of engineering and so on. Wow,
that's amazing. So Rutgers actually, I would say they have a winning record in the Big Ten then, based on that, right? Sorry, I have a lot of sports jokes today. So there's a couple more questions from the audience. There's actually quite a lot. And one person is asking basically how could they help, which was one of our questions. So how could someone get involved and help with this? Is there anything people can do, or is it kind of on its way? I know you don't want to say no, but maybe the answer is no. How can they help?
Well, in terms of COVID-19 specifically, Rutgers has set up funds to support research and also to support students in need. That's definitely something that we will always be looking for help with. They set up a COVID research task force and a fund, and there are several projects that are being funded and work being done for everything from research studies to clinical trials to evaluating different types of therapies and treatments and so on. So there are a lot of areas where that help is needed. On the entrepreneurship side, you can get involved, engage with us, whether you want to work with students or faculty or even alumni entrepreneurs. And, we're happy to engage with people in that area. And of course, as far as COVID-19 is concerned, wear a mask.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Hopefully everybody is doing that.
Or do virtual stuff like this. Here we go.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So if anyone wants to get involved, like I guess they could reach out to the RUCDR, the CEC directly. And do you have any way they could do that? Or we could post that later if you like.
Yeah,
that might be the easy thing.
Yeah, I can do that.
All right, great, because there's a few people asking about that. And then you started to talk about the other COVID research at Rutgers. Is that at the RUCDR or the CEC or both? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about the other research.
Yeah, so the other research is happening across the university. There's Rutgers Biological and Health Sciences. They were doing studies in different areas, looking at treatments, looking at the effects of COVID on healthcare workers, and there'll be, many other studies. There are areas of social studies that they're running, research as well that have been funded through the university and other sources. So there are many different areas that people can get involved, and they're not just medical. There are the social science areas. They're the in the hospital systems as well as the broader university community. And
is there there's some sort of 15-minute test also, right? I'm sure that's all super secret, but is there anything you could tell us about that?
I am aware that there was another test being touted as being a much shorter term where you could go to a healthcare provider's office and they could provide results within the hour or less. I'm not as familiar with what's most current because news has been coming out weekly, and it's almost hard to keep up at this point with what studies are being done. But there are many areas. So if anyone's interested, I'm happy to get some more information about those and provide them.
Cool. All right. So if you get thrown in charge of that, maybe you could bring one of those test kits to the next meetup, and then you could take it at the beginning, and by the end, we'll know. How's that?
Right.
I don't know if we want to know, but that it's really good for privacy to do that on healthcare privacy to do that on a meetup like this. So I don't know if you know this either, but people are asking do you know, generally speaking, what the accuracy is of the saliva test, and how does it compare to the other tests that are out there? Maybe you probably don't know all the other tests, but what do you know anything about the accuracy? And if so, where do you think it's at?
Yeah, so in the initial EUA, they had 100 samples, and they had 100% concordance between nasopharyngeal swabs and the saliva test. So they were very close, they were matched. Since then, they've run a larger study with more closer to 1,000 patients, and I believe they were asymptomatic patients with 96% correlation, and about a 50-50 split with the remaining less than 4% where they were positive with nasopharyngeal or positive with saliva testing.
That's cool. And you had mentioned you had mentioned that they actually can tell when they don't have enough in their sample, and then they recollect it. Well, it's not. They recollect it from the same sample. They recollect the specimen, I should call it, from the same sample, right? So maybe that helps a lot. I don't know.
So if there is an indeterminate result, which happens in less than 2% of cases, they can rerun the specimen, yes, and through the test and see if they get a yes or no.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting. So it seems very accurate to me. I mean, I guess I don't know what to believe sometimes with what everyone's saying about all these tests, but I just guess there's so many tests out there that, you know, different tests have different false positive, negative, and so on. So you kind of don't know. That's one of our problems, I think, as a country, right? Is like, what does our data really mean, right? Anyway, but it's great that it has such a low false positive and false negative. That's fantastic. So somebody else is asking like about other research projects. Is there like a list somewhere that, like, if you were an investor, you could get a list of all the projects and invest in some of them? And if so, maybe that's something you could share afterwards, but let us know about that.
Yes, I can. There are a few things. There's a site called Research with Rutgers, which shows that's more general research that's being done around the university, not necessarily startups though, or technology available for license. There is a Tech Finder site, and I believe that as we launch this new website that's coming next month for Rutgers Research, there will be a lot of updated information. So we can provide those links when the site is launched, so that people can look at research and opportunities for new ventures, as well, and licensing, as well as the entrepreneurship partnerships and corporate engagement. And for entrepreneurship, we'll be launching some new social channels too, so that people can follow them and get the latest news.
Okay. All right. So there's so much out here, and I tried to weave multiple questions into some of these, but someone's also asking, like, what's the biggest single test that's been done? Is it like the government? You said 30,000. Has that actually been done, or is that just contracted? What's the biggest one that's been done in, let's say, one big test?
In one big test, I actually don't know. And,
okay,
and
no
also,
worries. Yeah,
there are, but I can tell you that there are a lot of universities and organizations that are asking to do tests. So for example, in August, if they're bringing their students back, they might want to test all their faculty and staff once, and then a week later, or, you know, do one bulk testing event. So I think there are going to be some numbers fairly large like that. There are obviously several organizations, and as you mentioned, with the government, I don't think they've done 30,000 yet, but they certainly have done some large batches of testing also.
Oh, that's great. Okay, and then let's say if I wanted to take this test, aside from, because I know where you live, so aside from coming to your house and like stealing your kit, how would I have to go to my doctor and get it prescribed, or is that not even possible yet? Like, what's the deal with that?
So for individuals, yes, you can go see your physician, and typically they're testing people if they show symptoms, or if they've been in contact with someone, or if there may be some risk to them, and so you can request that. Another option for the saliva test is our telehealth partners. For example, Vault Health. You can go to the Vault Health website, and they have you fill out a survey or a questionnaire, and then if you match their profile, they can send you a kit. And in order to do the kit at home, you have to have a telehealth appointment. And so you actually do a Zoom call with a telehealth provider who will supervise you and walk you through the process of giving the sample, and then packing it up and sealing it and sending it by courier to our UCDR.
Wow. Okay. All right. We're going to try to actually finish on time, which might be a first for the Mars Tech Meetup. But I'm very conscious of these. We're very conscious of these virtual events. If they go long, it really gets to be too much. At least that's my opinion. Anything else you want to say about the COVID stuff? And if not, what's next for you at Rutgers? And what are you up to next?
Well, I don't think there's much more to say about COVID, except obviously, we want people to be safe. There's a lot of great work happening at Rutgers. It's really a source of pride when you see all the things that have been happening there, to do everything from protect people to help the community to doing research and to hopefully discovering, new ways to protect people. So it's been very exciting. For me personally, I'm excited to be launching this new entrepreneurship partnerships area. It's fairly new, and it's a way for us to coordinate all the activities within Rutgers and bring visibility to that area in the community. And we do also have a lot of very successful alumni who we'd like to highlight as well, and have them engage with us more too. And so if there are people looking to engage, again, you can contact us, and I will send you some information on how to get in touch with us to be able to get involved, help out, and be a part of that community.
That's great. Yeah, maybe something I should have said at the beginning is like, I really hope everyone's safe out there. This was a really cool event because this is like a Jersey Strong event here, right? Like we had Ryan, who is trying to protect people in assisted living by staying at home and helping them be safe at home and out of the way of the virus. And then this is a great New Jersey story. All the research that's going on at Rutgers is just fantastic. So I don't know, you're part of Jersey Strong, Pavita. Thank you for doing this and for all that you and Rutgers are doing.
Thank you. Very exciting. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up. I hope everyone enjoyed this. And Pavita, you were a fantastic guest. Thank you again. And we will probably take the rest of the summer off, if that's okay with everyone. And we'll have another event probably early September. It will be virtual, most likely, but we're hoping to get back together in person sometime soon, that's for sure. And I don't know, I'll wrap up with Jersey Strong, and way to go, Pavita and Ryan. Let's put all our resources to bear on this thing and have an impact here in New Jersey. Thank you.